Okay, you talked me off the ledge last week about the Scouts. I said 2 weeks ago they're going to win one more game. I thought it was going to be the Zion game, but then they beat Libertyville, and it didn't. It looked iffy there on the Zion game, John. What was going on with that game? Homecoming.
I think there are certain teams, Pete, that always are thorns in the side of other teams, right? You can point to professional examples of this. Certainly, the Bears. I mean, the Packers have owned them, since the Brett Favre
Yeah.
started over 30 years ago. You can point to these things in other sports. Zion is sort of that, that thorn for the Scouts, and they have been for a long time. They play a very kind of unique pressure style, and they're kind of a big play team. The Scouts play a lot of man coverage and in defense, so they're susceptible to sort of big plays. And you don't practice against that because most teams don't play it. So most teams kind of run the same stuff now, whether it be college, NFL, high school. And so if you're an offense going against your defense in practice, well, that's typically what you're going to see in the opponent. So teams that are completely different. And that's the case with Zion. They just play kind of a funky system. And I think the Scouts always kind of struggle with them for whatever reason. And I think there's
Yeah.
also a bit of a homecoming. Pete, I've just seen it happen so many times where,
Hangover.
yeah, I mean, literally in some cases, right, Pete?
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but certainly emotionally, because there's just so much going on now. I mean, with all the pomp and circumstance, all the events during the week, I think it's great for the community. It's great for community support. I don't think it
Yep.
always translates great to football on the field. The kids were also dealing with a little bit of an issue during the week where there was a former Lake Forest swimmer who actually died of some injuries he suffered over the summer. I think he was a lifeguard and he had an accident and then succumbed to those injuries, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And he has a brother who
Wow.
played for the football team, does not now, but at one
Yeah,
point
okay.
played. And so I think that, and you throw all of that into it. And I think a bunch of them went to the kid's funeral the next day. So yeah, at the end of the day, you're dealing with 16, 17, 18-year-olds, right, Pete? So if you can
Yeah,
find
okay.
some kind of some elixir that can help you predict their emotions, then you and I would make a
Yeah.
lot of money. But
Look,
we can't do that.
that's why you and I are talking, John. I don't know. I know what I don't know. Okay. I have my opinions, but I also know when I'm wrong and I need help. So the rest of the season, so they're pretty much in the playoffs, right? What's the next game?
Yeah, so as you and I are talking about this or having this conversation, they're heading into week 6. So they play Zion on I guess that's dates in my head, September 29th
Yeah.
at Varsity Field. So that will be the 6th game. The Scouts are 4-1, so they are one win away from being able to qualify. The Illinois High School Association, the rules are that if you get to 6 wins, automatically you're in. If you get to 5, you have to qualify based on a kind of a record based on opponents' points, meaning the record of the combined opponents. Typically, because the Scouts are in a very good conference, the North Suburban Conference, they always qualify at 5-4. So I think with one more win, whether that be Friday night or that comes at some point here, the next 4 games, they will make the playoffs. I'm predicting that now, Pete, on your podcast very boldly. Yes, the Scouts are back in the postseason this year. And I think they will. I think they're going to beat Stevenson on Friday, and I think they're going to get
Really?
to 5 wins after Friday. Yes, I do.
Talk to me about Stevenson because their population's greater than 1,400, so you would think they would have more of a crop, right?
Yeah, well, certainly I mean, there's more zip codes. I mean, I think you can have a Lake Forest zip code and actually go to Stevenson. If you're on the west side of
Yeah.
Lake Forest, kind of off of Everett there,
Yeah,
near
yeah,
near
yeah.
Daniel Webster Middle School. Yeah, I mean, Stevenson is historically a really good program. They won a state championship in 2014. They've been to a state championship in previous years. I think they are a team that kind of struggled over the course of a few years, meaning they I think they had something like 30 or something consecutive playoff appearances. And then they went 3 or 4 years without making the playoffs back in kind of 2017, 2018, 2019, kind of struggled a little bit. And I think part of that was just they had a bunch of coaching changes,
Yeah.
a bunch of transitions, and it's just a different mix of population there. Pete, Stevenson has students that come from different backgrounds and different demographics. And I think that I think it's been challenged for them to get participation numbers, believe it or not, and to build up their youth program enough to where they're getting 80, 90 to 100 kids in that program. Because football, if you don't have participation, it all trickles down in terms of success on the field. So they went through a bit of a transition there. I think they're back now a little bit more with participation numbers. But yeah, it's a school that has 4,000 kids, 4,500 compared to Lake Forest 14.
Yeah.
But Stevenson, I think, won something like 12 consecutive times against Lake Forest up until about 2018. Lake Forest won 4 years in a row. Stevenson got them last year. So always a great rivalry. Could be a good atmosphere there on Friday night at Varsity Field.
Are there any players that are going to play on to the next level, you think? Get some college paid for? And the scouts,
Yeah, you mean
scholarship play,
for Lake Forest,
get a ride.
Yeah,
get a ride.
Yeah, get a ride of some capacity, whether that be a Division I or even at a Division III level. Yeah, no, I think so. I think they've got the junior class is extremely strong. Pete, you're talking 43, 44, 45. I mean, bodies that are in that 2025 graduating class. And there's a number of them, I think, in that class that can go on to play in college. This particular senior class, there's one, I think people listening to this podcast that will know that is number 7. His name is Tommy Aberle. Tommy is somebody who came into Lake Forest already, kind of a well-known athlete out of St. Mary's. He was a 3-sport athlete up until I think this past year. I mean, he played football, basketball, and baseball. I think he dropped baseball this past spring, last year as a junior. And now he plays football and basketball. He is a star point guard. He is highly sought after as a basketball player, about 6'2", about 180 pounds. Football player, he is a starting linebacker. He's their best tackler. He's their captain. He's their leader. This team runs on the energy and production of Tommy Aberle. And whether he plays in football or not remains to be seen. He's kind of a tweener, Pete, in terms of his size. But he'll play college somewhere, whether it be football or basketball. But he's the one who comes to mind. Logan Uline, part of the Uline, family, right? Right.
That's we all know lineage right there.
Yep, absolutely. He has an older brother, Mac, who's at Northwestern. Has a brother, Brock, who's also playing in college. And then I think Logan is somebody who will play somewhere. He's an offensive lineman, defensive lineman, about 6'2", about 250 pounds. So that not necessarily a Division I guy, but somebody who could Division III, maybe even like an FBS kind of player. So those are 2 guys in the senior class who sort of jump out.
Well, God bless them. Their parents are tickled, man. Get that college taken care of, right? Keep your health and get your education. That's a hell of a deal. On the recruiting side, Jon, do these high schools, like, if the participation rate is down, yet Lake Forest can still be competitive despite my opinions of the past? Is there any recruitings, or it's just based where you live? Do some people like get a rental house for a period of time because you're talking about the transfer portal, and that gentleman, I forget his name, that came in and made an impact. People are asking me about it. I said, I have no idea who the kid is. Jon, brought it up. Is that going on? And then number 2, give us a little more info on the portal kid that came in.
Yeah. So, transfers are not uncommon in the, public, the private schools, right? So typically when you see transfers, you'll have kids that will, what I mean is private / Catholic schools, right? So you think of the traditional Catholic league teams in the Chicago era, let's say Loyola, right? St. Rita, Mount Carmel, right? No matter where if you follow high school, even follow high school football, you know who those programs are. At least you've heard of the schools. So when we talk about transfers, typically those are schools that you hear about. Kids maybe go to the local public school, things aren't working out. Maybe it's not the best academic situation for them, football wise. Yeah. So then they transfer to a private school. In the case of this particular athlete for the Scouts, and there's two of them that are on the varsity level now. One, his name is Mari Brown. The other one is Gabe Lewis. And I've been working on a story on this, Pete, for about a week or so, but it's difficult to get information on this. This is a challenging thing because the Illinois High School Association doesn't necessarily give you specific documents on these things, right? So it's not like there's like some paper trail of, okay, this particular kid lived in this zip code, and then they transferred to this particular zip code. You'd have to FOIA house records and add those types of things. So, what we're talking about and why you're being asked about this is one of the players, Jamari Brown, who is a sophomore. My understanding, again, this is all information that it's been difficult to confirm any of this stuff.
Allegedly, I'm good at saying that.
Allegedly,
term, allegedly.
Yeah, we'll just say, exactly. We'll just say everything I'm saying here is with the caveat of allegedly. Well, what's not allegedly is that he did play in the Libertyville game and caught a touchdown pass and had a remarkable game. So I think the high visibility of that game and how well he played made this become a story, right? Because I had heard guys talk about him all summer. They said, "Hey, we have these two kids that have come in. Can't wait till they can play." But they were not eligible for the 3 games of the season. And then they played against Libertyville. My understanding, I did get this confirmed, that they became eligible the day of the game. Now, what does that mean, eligibility? Well, what that means is that the Illinois High School Association, the executive director, a guy named Craig Anderson, who's one who rules on these things, he made a decision based on the information that he had that those two players, Jamari Brown and Gabe Lewis, could then play that particular night in that game based on the information that they had. And that information could have been, okay, well, the property records came in, and I can confirm that there is a Lake Forest address by a guardian of some kind, whether that be a parent or a guardian, right? Or secondly, they is enrolled in the school and is taking classes, right? So that would be another burden of proof that the family would have to show for or the school would have to for him to become eligible. So now, since that's happened, Pete, he has not played. So he did not play against Zion, and he's not going to play this week. So
what? Wait. What happened now? He could play the one game and couldn't play the other game, and what was the reason?
The only information I've gotten, Pete, is internal issues. That's the only thing I've been able to confirm from anybody at the high school, that there are internal issues that are sort of beyond their control. Whoever, in terms of who's in control of that, that's the administration, and that's the family, that's the IHSA. So there's definitely something going on there with it. I'm not necessarily saying there's anything untoward about it or anything dishonest about it. It's just complicated. And but yeah, it's unfortunate because that player makes a big impact. I mean, I'm talking about Jamari Brown, credible athlete, made some great catches in the air. He started at Carmel as a freshman, and then he transferred to Lake Forest this year. He's somebody who started at private and switched to public. But it's still kind of murky as to how all that happened, why he's now not playing.
Yep. So somebody's crying foul and they're looking into it. Allegedly, who knows, right, John? It's just interesting that all this happened this past week, and then we'll go on this next topic and we'll let you go. What the hell happened at Hallis Hall, man? Justin Fields is a bust. He's not playing well. He blames the coaches. Then he says, no, I don't really blame the coaches. The defensive coordinator says, peace out. And then the FBI is up there. And then they're not. What's your best guess? Or just dumpster fire, or wait till next year, or sell a team?
Well, I think the latter would be the most popular outcome for Bears
Yeah.
fans, them selling the team, because you can get out of this rut the Bears have been in since 1985. Hey, as
Yeah.
somebody who, in my formative years, Pete, as
Yeah.
a middle schooler, my dad was in the military, and and he was stationed in Virginia, and I became a lifelong Redskins fan in the early '80s because they were great at that time. Now, I know what's like as a fan to be in purgatory, because we had an owner named Dan Snyder, who was not only a horrible owner, but a horrible
Person.
person. Yes, just an individual, and screwed his fellow owners out of millions of dollars. So they finally got him to sell the team. So whatever happens this year as a Redskins fan, I'm sorry, there'll always be the Redskins to me,
Yeah. Yeah.
fan, is gravy. It's like celebration day every day because Snyder is gone. So as a Bears fans, and my friends are Bears fans, that's kind of the way that they feel. But that's not going to happen. The McCaskey family isn't selling the team. I think the issue that they have is they simply cannot hire the right people. They have too many people. Somebody who covered the team in the late '90s and 2000s when I worked television, it's
Yeah.
they out of all the whether it's George, it's Brian, Michael, whoever's running the team, they simply are inept at finding either operations people or coaches to run the team, and so and they're never aligned. It seems like seem to have the
Yeah.
owner and the GM and the coach all kind of aligned together, because now you're saddled with a quarterback that the coach didn't draft, right? And so they might not necessarily think the quarterback is as good as everybody else thinks he is. You have the quarterback calling out the coaching staff, which you never hear that in the NFL publicly. And then you had the situation, unfortunately, with the defensive coordinator who resigned under, again, just sort of questionable. No one really knows what sort of happened there, whose son is actually on the Lake Forest team. You know, Pete, his son, Nate Williams, is a junior on the team, injured right now, but a really good athlete. So I mean, you're 3 games in, and it's kind of wait till next year, Pete, right? But who's going to be the coach? Are they going to draft a quarterback? It's kind of the same story with them. It's just sort of different years.
Well, Fields has better numbers Trubisky has better numbers than Fields, which is mind-boggling. We ran him out of town. Lovie Smith, who I was a huge fan on, he was 10-6, and they fired him. I don't know if he was the right person. It's just, you're right. It's at the top. And it's almost like when the Tribune had the Cubs, they didn't really care unless, it was the world's largest beer garden. You can make money, and you make money off of the fans, who knows, but I'm in Missouri, I was, the Chiefs, and I was in American Legion, and they gave out free Jello shots for every KC touchdown.
Well, and was there any? I'd imagine that was the conversation mostly about Travis Kelce's new girlfriend, or
they were all talking about that, and I didn't know Travis Kelce was married before. I didn't know he had a couple kids or whatever. That's how deep they go into it, and I think for the NFL and whatever it is, it's another, because she has quite the fanhood. That's another round of people to get to look at the NFL, because the NFL's turned off a lot of people in the last few years. Because if you don't have a winning team and then you do all this anti-whatever stuff marketing wise, that shuts off a lot of, the NFL could have been Bud Light, but it depends on the part. Yeah.
Yeah, Pete, no, I was just going to say, I think you are working your way into uttering the word woke.
Yeah.
Which we have not uttered in this conversation. Shockingly, you and me haven't mentioned that. And yet the NFL was heading down that road. Yeah. I agree. But the one thing that they have is they still have a great product. I mean, so that's a difference between the NFL. There's still nothing like NFL. We love our NFL in this country.
Yeah.
And I think when you have to me, it's a perfect story, that the Kelce situation, because he's already become famous with all these commercials he's done in the offseason. I mean, I think people knew who he was if you're a fantasy football player like I am, you hope you have the top 5 draft because you can pick Kelsey. I never have, so I've never been able to get Kelsey the last 5 years.
Yeah.
And then you throw in the fact that, obviously Taylor Swift is arguably the most famous pop culture figure we have currently now. And those two are kind of a match made in marketing heaven. I just say beware Travis, because at some point it's going to be a hard breakup, and I'm sure Taylor will be referencing you in a song in a future album.
that she covered, that somebody else wrote, whatever. Well, then
there's yeah, but still though, I mean, enjoy the ride. If you're Travis Kelce, enjoy the ride
in Missouri. Yeah. So at least we have college football, and Colorado again brought me back into football, even though they got their they got wiped out by Oregon, which we knew was going to happen, and probably USC is going to do even worse to them. But on Saturdays, what Lake Forest players like 99 on Notre Dame that we should be keeping an eye on to, for the scouts that are out there playing right now? Who should we be watching for on Saturdays?
Yeah, you mentioned number 99, who is Riley Mills, a defensive lineman who graduated from the Scouts in 2020. That's right. His last year was 2019. So he was in the 2020 class. Had offers from pretty much every single Power 5 school, including Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. Chose Notre Dame. Had a pretty good game against Ohio State on Sunday, from what I read. He's on some draft lists, so he's somebody to certainly watch. I think he has a year of eligibility left, but he's somebody who certainly, I think, will graduate from Notre Dame and potentially go on, to the NFL. We mentioned early on this conversation Mac Uline, who was a linebacker for Northwestern. I believe, he was 37 for the Scouts. I don't know if he's 37 or 39 for Northwestern, but he's a linebacker who is seeing a playing time this year for Northwestern. Heck of a comeback for the Wildcats against Pete on Saturday night. Missed that game because I was too busy watching Notre Dame choke that one away against the Buckeye.
Do you think they're going to run on that play? Did you think they're going to run on that play?
Oh yeah. I just didn't think they were going. I didn't think they were going to run against 10 guys, which Notre Dame had on the field. I don't know how you screw that one up, but another one to keep a watch out for if you happen to get the SEC network or you happen to catch a Vanderbilt game is a Richie Hoskins, who is a 2021 graduate of the Scouts. He played quarterback, was North Suburban Conference Player of the Year in the spring season of 2021. Richie's a great story. Went to Middlebury, played lacrosse and football at Middlebury, then transferred to Vanderbilt, got into the portal, found an opportunity at Vanderbilt. He's on the traveling team. At one point, I think he was up to number 2 on the depth chart at slot receiver. Not sure how much playing time that he's getting now, but he's just a heck of a story. Root for guys like Richie because he's earned everything.
America, yeah,
absolutely, and it's at a great school in Vanderbilt. So those are 3 guys I think on Saturdays that there's a more guys. A bunch of other guys too that are playing in college, but those are probably 3 most high profile. There's a offensive lineman who's down at Florida. Nick Flynn is an offensive lineman who was on the 2021 semifinal team. I don't think he's playing that much, but he's somebody who's earned a spot down there at Florida. Leo Scheidler is at Notre Dame. Eddie Scheidler, his brother's also at Notre Dame. Not playing a whole lot, but those are guys that you kind of root for and careers you certainly want to track as they progress in their college careers.
Proud parents, man. Shout out to them, man. Nice job. Nice job. Yeah. And the last shout out, John, is do you have a player of the game for the Scouts last game? The Jon Kerr player of the game. Do you have one?
Yeah, if I had, absolutely. If I had to say I'll give it to a senior back named Ben Murfeld. Ben is a St. Mary's guy. Has again worked his way up into a very, very valuable member of the team. Somebody who's a little bit under the radar because again, you always think of the Lake Forest a quarterback in Danny Van Camp, and a couple running backs that are also really good. Grant Marty Hipple, those guys, that's kind of the drivers of their offense, from a skill position standpoint. But Murfield is sort of that glue guy, that every team has to have, well-respected, great locker room guy, somebody who just does the plays. The coaches know how valuable he is, and he filmed to really know it. More of an H-back, great hands, run routes, good blocker. But yeah, he's had a couple touchdown passes in the Zion game. But he's somebody that I think is a very valuable member of that team, and somebody that when they're playing well, Murfield has a big impact. So I would say number 5 from St. Mary's, Ben Murfield.
Number 1 in your heart. Jon Kerr, another great podcast, my friend. We're getting a lot of positive response. We got to keep this ball rolling here.
Yeah, I hope that everyone who watches this on the stream can see how resplendent, Pete is in his American flag, short sleeve, Dockers looking, or probably Eagle Outfitters, American Eagle Outfitters, knowing Pete.
He's
not a Lulu guy. Yeah, that's not a Lulu. It's definitely not a Lulu. I can tell you that. Yeah. You and me both. I got this at Nordstrom Rack. Okay, so but yeah, no, man, happy to do it, and always like talking, current event sports, and we'll do it again.
Well, and the town likes it, so we're here to help out, right? Okay, who we rooting for next week, John? Who are they playing again?
So the Scouts are playing Stevenson on Friday.
Stevenson
as we're recording
Friday.
this.
Okay.
I'll just say, we'll say September, 29th, depending on, when people are sort of watching this.
And
I mean, obviously rooting for the Scouts, right? So for sure.
Okay. Just making sure. John, I'll give you an early cut of this. What's nice doing shows with you is there's not much to edit, man. Now on your end, we'll see.
Yeah. Again, I just try to be efficient. Try to become, coming under budget, right? That's the lessons I were taught, right? So, so anything I can do to kind of help you out, and always enjoy chatting with you.
Help us out. And then if somebody wants a subscription to your content, John, where are we sending them, and we'll go?
Yes, they can find me a couple different places. You can go to I've got two newsletters. One is if you want to read, Scouts football content, you can go to scoutsfootball.substack.com, or just Google Scouts Football Substack. Substack is just a newsletter platform. You can just, it's free. Just, type in your email address. We'll get you on the list. If you want to read more of some of the stuff that we were talking about earlier with Pete, more kind of political commentary, more that type of stuff, current events, you can go to my newsletter, which is just the Kerr Report is what it's called. You can go to kerr.substack.com. It's also free. Type in your email address, get on the list, and you can read that particular publication. So, but yeah, check it out. Again, it's all free, and everything is sent to your email box.
Jon Kerr, another great show, man. I'm hitting the road soon, getting back to Lake Forest. I have to give up God's country. Look out, Lake Forest, here I come.
Safe driving back, and I would expect you to have. I want you to be decked out in some sort of MAGA gear when you pull.
I'm gonna. Well, they do have a Trump store here, and I will count the Trump flags as from the overpasses as we go along. John, take care. I'll send you a copy of this.
Appreciate it, Pete. Always great talking to you.
All right, bye-bye.